Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Steven from Tech Overseas. If you have seen my latest video, you saw that I gave you an overview of Cursor AI and all the features and capabilities. Now, I realized that I went quite quickly over the Composer feature, which is an essential feature and is also a new feature. And that's why in this video or series of video, I actually want to create a project from scratch in order to show you how you can leverage Cursor AI and use it at its full potential. So we are going to go from project installation, project setup. We are going to build the APIs, implement a payment gateway, and then deploy our application. So we are either going to deploy on AWS or DigitalOcean, and I'm also going to show you how you can create some GitHub actions in order to automate the CI/CD and deploy automatically your project. Now, all of this, we are going to use Cursor AI, and I'm going to try to use as much as possible Cursor AI in order to show you how simple and how useful Cursor AI is. Now, many people are afraid of AI and how fast it's advancing, but I think as a developer, we should really embrace it because anyway, AI is here to stay. So for this project, we are going to use Next.js simply because it has the ease of having a front end and a back end integrated. And so we are not going to create a Node.js server with Koa or Express or whatever. So let's just get started. So for this application, let's go in the documentation, let's go in installation, let's copy the command, let's go in the terminal, we are going to go in the desktop and we will say npx create next app and we will call it stats. Now we want TypeScript, ESLint, we don't want Tailwind, we want the source directory, app router, and we don't want to customize the default import aliases for now. Now, once this is done, you can type Cursor SAS and it will open your project in Cursor AI. Now, the first thing you have to do, you do Command P and you search for the Cursor settings. And in the feature, make sure that it's actually indexing your code base. And if it's not doing it, or if it's an old code base, make sure to click on Resync because this is very important. Otherwise, it's actually going to use the code base of another project, which is something you don't want to happen. Now, also for the Cursor SAS that you saw in my terminal, the thing is you can actually install it. So if you do Command P and then search for Cursor, you can see here it's saying shell command install Cursor command, and this will allow you, the same way you do code and SAS to open VS Code, you can actually do Cursor and SAS in order to open Cursor AI. Now, as you can see, it's a very simple project. So we have our TS config JSON, we have our ESLint, and we also have a very basic application. Now, for this application, the only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to clean out everything, and the only thing I will keep is the image just because it looks cool. Now let's open the terminal, let's npm run dev, and we will go on our application and check that everything works. So localhost 3000, we see our image and everything is good. Now let's go back in the application. So the first thing that we are going to work on is our user authentication system. So we are going to create a magic link system where the user will receive a link, click on the link, it will redirect back to our application, and we will log in the user automatically. So let's go in our app folder, let's create a new folder, and we can say API and then magic link. So we are going to have two endpoints. The first one is going to be the magic link in order to send the link, and the second one is going to be the verify in order to verify the link when the user click on the link in the email. Now our magic link is going to be route.ts and our verify is also going to have our route.ts. Now, there are multiple ways you can actually do this with Composer. So you can either create, for example, a prompt folder where inside the prompt folder, you have multiple text files, and each text files gives actually clear instruction to the AI on what to do. Or you can simply just go in Composer and ask what you do. But I find that if you go through the Composer feature and you don't give clear instruction, there is more room for error and less visibility on what you actually want to achieve. So ahead of time, I have actually created some skeleton for each file just so that you can see. So it's very simple. It's just a post request where we have a bunch of comments. And so these comments will actually allow us to control what we want Composer to write. So let's save. If you want, pause the video in order to read, but it's simply just getting the email from the body. If the email is not provided, we return error, we fetch the user, and so on and so on. And so for our next route, I have also created a skeleton. This time is going to be a get request. Here we have to say next request from next server. And so here we get the token from the query string. If there is no token, we return error, we verify the token, we check if the user exists, and so on and so on. So pause the video in order to read, but we will come back to it later. Now, once we have done this, what we can actually do, we can open the Composer feature. So Command Shift I, and as you can see right now, it's actually opening with the context of the file we're opening to, but we don't want any context for this. So we are going to close the context, same I have created a prompt ahead of time in order not to bore you with this kind of task. So I'm going to paste it, I'm going to zoom a bit, and as you can see, I want to build a user authentication flow that allows users to log into the website by entering the email and receiving a magic link. So what I'm saying basically, whenever you meet a comment in a route.ts file, generate the corresponding code directly under the existing comment. I want you to use Material UI for the design. I want you to implement Prisma for the schemas. Here are the schemas you have to respect for the users and for the login attempts, because we are going to log the users' login attempts in order to block and prevent the users from logging in more than, let's say, 5 times, 10 times within a time frame. Also, I want to use React Query for handling queries and mutation. I want to integrate with React Hot Toast for showing error or success message. And finally, I'm also saying disregard all the to-do commands in the code. And the main reason is because, as you can see, if I go in my magic link, I actually created a to-do command so I don't forget this in the flow. However, I don't want Composer AI to actually treat this command. That's why I created a to-do, and so that's why I'm saying to the Composer view, disregard all the to-do commands in the code. So now what you're going to do, you can press Command-Shift-Enter, and it's just going to go through all the files. So it's going to read the context from all the files, and it's actually going to create all our projects. As you can see right now, in my route magic link, it's actually created all the logic underneath every single comment. So if I go in the magic link, you can see that we get the email from the request. If there is no email, we return an error. It's validating the email. We are finding the user. Then we are getting all the login attempts. If the user has tried more than 5 times, we return an error, and so on and so on. Now, secondly, it has updated our verify endpoint where we get the token and so on. Now, in our page, we have the form in order for the user to submit their email. As you can see right now, we have the text field, we have the button, everything is good. Now, in the schema, we also have our user, we have our login attempts. Package.json, it has added emotion, Material UI, Prisma, React Query, JSON Web Token, Next, and so on. And we also have our environment file. So there are just few things right now that I see that are not good. And the main thing is that, for example, here, I don't want to have PostgreSQL, I want to have SQLite. So let me go quickly and move my head from the middle. So what I can say, for example, I can just go here and I can say, can you please use SQLite instead? Let's press enter, and it's going to go through all the files again, and it's going to use SQLite. So here, as you can see, it's showing you a loader for all the files that it's actually rerunning. So in our env, it has removed the PostgreSQL link. In our schema, now we are using the SQLite. So this is good. However, this, I want to have it in a variable. Can you add this into its own env variable? As you can see right now, it has updated the schema. Now we have SQLite. We also have the database URL. And in our .env, it has created the database URL. Let's see what we have. So same, the Prisma client, I don't want to have it like this. I want to have a separate file. So can you export Prisma client into its own file and import it accordingly? Now, as you can see, it's going to rerun here all the files that have the schema, and it's going to create a prisma.ts where we export the Prisma client. And so here, as you can see, we no longer have our Prisma. It's actually used directly from the lib Prisma file. So this looks fine. Now in our route, this looks fine. In our page, okay. Schema, package.json, Prisma, tsconfig. This is fine. Now what I want, for example, it has not imported the query client provider. So can you please add the query client provider from React Query in our layout.ts? However, please create a separate file in order to encapsulate the logic, because our query client provider needs to be encapsulated because we need to use client. And as you can see right now, it has successfully created the React Query. So we have our React Query provider and we have the use client. And then in our layout, we are using the React Query provider. So it's all good. On top of this, it has also given me some instructions. So as you can see here, I will have to actually install the application. Also, I can see that we have JSON Web Token, and I know that JSON Web Token is not going to work with Next.js. So I will say, can you please replace JSON Web Token with another library that is compatible with Next.js? So I already know it's going to use something like Jose or Jose, I don't know how you pronounce it, simply because it's the most famous. Yeah, okay. As you can see, npm install Jose. So this is good. Now, as I can see, we have our encode, our verify. Same, I'm going to say, can you extract the sign and verify logic from Jose into its own file? Now it's going to rerun. Let's see what files it's going to rerun. It should rerun all the routes. So as you can see, it has created a jwt.ts where we have signed jwt and verified jwt, and then it's updating everywhere. As you can see right now we are no longer using the Jose or the JSON JWT, we are directly using the verified JWT and the signed JWT functions that we have encapsulated in this file. So as you can see right now, I don't know how long it's been probably like 3-4 minutes, and now we have probably 90% of our user authentication application. And all it took is me prompting over and over again and asking basically what I want the AI to do. So let's go ahead and accept all the changes. Let's close this. And as you can see right now, we have all our application. So now there are still a few things that we actually have to do. Let's go in the package.json. And as you can see right now, we have all these packages to actually install. So let's open a new terminal and let's say npm install. Cool. Now it's done. We can close our terminal. And as you can see, most of the errors disappeared. And so one thing we also want to do, let's go in the Prisma. We also want to check this dateable URL environment. And so we do not want to actually call this dev. Let's call it user. Let's save. And now what I'm going to do, I need to run a command, which is npx prisma db push. And now it's going to use the Prisma file. It's going to load the environment variable. And just like that, we have our user DB. So as you can see, our user DB has two tables. It has the user with the email token, token expired, and it also has the login attempts where it's using the user, and each user is actually a reference of the user in the users table. So this is good. Let's check what we have. We have our React query. This is good. We have our Prisma, our JWT, what is wrong. So this is wrong. So for this, for example, I could ask Composer to fix it, but it's very simple. So the payload, all you have to do, you check the definition of this and you get the JWT payload and you just paste it here and then you import it from Jose and it's fixed. So this is unnecessary to waste AI requests just for this. Now let's go ahead in our page.tx. We have this. Now it has created a login page where we have our text field, we have our button. We are going to try this soon. Let's go in our magic link. So in our magic link, as you can see, we are getting the email from the request. If there is no email, we want to return an error. This is good. Now we want to validate the email. If it's not an email, we say invalid email. We want to get the user. If the user exists, we check its attempts. If the user has tried more than 5 times, as you can see, we return an error. Now, if not, we want to delete all the attempts older than here it's actually 10 minutes. So what we are going to do, we are going to change it into 10 seconds because I want to show you how it works. So here now it's actually going to be 10 seconds. Now what we do, upsert is used to update or create the user. Also, it has added the empty update, which is very important because if you remove this, it's going to crash. We are logging in our logging attempts. It's generating a token with 15 minutes. So this we can actually put, let's say 10 seconds. Also, I'm putting 10 seconds simply because I want to show you later when we try it. And then it's updating the user with the token and the expiration. And the expiration, same, it's going to be 10 seconds. Just like that. And then we return a JSON. So what we can do, for example, for now, we are not going to send the email. We can just simply say magic link and then put the link http://localhost login token, and it's not login, it's actually verify. So on the verify endpoint, so now we are good. Now let's go to the verify endpoint. We get the token from the next URL search param. This is good. If there is no token, we say token required. We verify the payload of the token. If it's invalid, we say invalid or expired. Now we get the user. Now this is a TypeScript error simply because it doesn't really know the payload. I'm not going to spend too much time on this for now. I'm just going to do a type assertion where I do a string because I don't want to like waste time on this. If there is no user, we say user not found. If the token does not match, we can say invalid token and return 4 or 3. We update our user. We can create a session token. On now this is going to be also 10 second. Now this is not something I want to do, so I'm going to remove this. I actually want to use the cookies from next header, and so we are going to import cookies. We have our session token, we pass the session token, and it's really important to have HTTP only to true, simply because you do not want someone to catch the token on the client side, so on the browser. So by having HTTP only, nobody can catch it. Secure, this is good. Same site, we don't care. Max age, we want 10 seconds, and the pass, this is good. So as you can see right now, we have our application, okay? So everything is done, everything is good. Just one thing that I want to do, one last thing I want to do, I want to open the composer feature again. Now let's create a single composer, and what we are going to say, we are going to say, can you please create a fetch wrapper in order to throw when the response is not okay. So now it's going to create a fetch wrapper. And so the reason why we are creating this fetch wrapper is because in our API route, we are returning a JSON object. However, React Query does not know that there is an error. So React Query will only throw if we throw an error. So what we have to do now, we have to say, if the status is, for example, 400, 404, 401, and so on, we want to throw an error because the response is not okay. Otherwise, we want to return a response. Now we can also say, can you please parse into JSON? Is going to modify our fetch wrapper, and now you can see it's either throwing an error or it's returning our response.json. So we can accept all, we can close, and as you can see, it has created a util folder, and inside we have our fetch wrapper. So let's actually remove some of the unnecessary TypeScript. So the input is going to be a string, and then we have request init. This is good. We don't need this TypeScript. Now this same, we don't need this. Here we don't want this. We actually want to have the response.error or the response.status text. And here we are going to say, let's say constant response JSON equals await response.json, and we are going to replace this here, and then we are going to replace this here. Now, as you can see right now, we have our application. So it's been what, 5, 6, 7 minutes, and our application is done. So let's close this. Let's actually go in our application. If I go on /login, you can see that now we go in a page where we have our email address and our magic link. And so what happened if I don't put an email? I try to click send. So let's remove this blocker. So I assume it has created some kind of required. So let's remove the required. Let's remove the margin. We don't need this. Let's also remove the autocomplete. Okay, so let's go back in our application. Let's actually remove my head from the middle. If I send the magic link, you can see email is required. Now, if I put anything, you can see now it's saying invalid email format. So as you can see, our logic is actually working. Now let's go back in the magic link. And so we have verified that the email is not working. We have verified this. Now what I'm going to do in our end file, we have not created the secret key. I found this very good article where you can simply just copy this here. We are going to open the terminal, and here we can just say this, and it's going to give us a token just like this. So we go back to cursor here in our JWT secret. We add the secret. We don't need the quotes, just like this, and we can save our end file. Okay, now let's go back on our temp mail, and we can select the temp mail. And now what I can do, I can actually put a mail and then send a magic link, and I can do it multiple times. So I can send the magic link. You know what, for faster use, I'm going to remove this where it's resetting the email all the time, so we can actually keep the email. And now I can send multiple magic link, and you can see that after a while it's telling me too many login attempts. And so now if we go in cursor, we can see that in our users DB, in the user we have only one user. In our login attempts we have 5 login attempts. Now what's happening is, like, if I try one more time, it works. It has removed all the login attempts, and now it's working. So our logic is actually working. So we have verified this. We have verified that it's actually blocking if we have more than 5 attempts. We have verified that it's deleting all the login attempts which are older than 10 seconds. We have verified that it's creating the user, it's updating the user, it's logging the attempt, and so on. One thing that I can actually do, I can ask Composer to give me a nice button in order to show the magic link. So I can open the Composer view and I can create a new Composer, and I can basically remove this. And I can say in my login page, can you please create a button in order to show the magic link in below the magic link form. So now I save, and as you can see, it's actually going to go through the page UI. So now we have our magic link. I'm going to accept all the changes. I'm going to close this. Now if I try to get the magic link, I put the email and I get send magic link, and I can click show magic link. So just like this, I can see that it's actually wrong, simply because in our magic link we should have here API. So API/verify/token. So let's go back, let's do it again. So here, if I actually do send magic link, I can get the link, get the verify, so I will take it without the token. And so I go to Postman, I create a new route, I can send, and now it's going to say token is required. Now, if I put any token, for example, and I say whatever, and I say send, we can see invalid or expired token. Now, if I put the link that was given to me, I take it and I put this, I can say send, and you can see invalid or expired token. And this is because we have set a 10-second expiration time on the token. So now what we are going to do, send the magic link, we get another token. Let's go in Postman very quickly. Let's do this. Send, login successfully. Now if I wait a few seconds and I'm trying again, invalid token. That's good. So now what we have, you can see that we also have the logic where we set the cookie. So now if I go back in Postman, as you can see here, if I go in cookies, you can see that we have our session token and we have our value. So what we can do, for example, we can simply create a new route account, and then in the account we'll have a route.ts. And so what I want to do here, I want to say something like, can you please write the logic to authenticate the user using server-side logic? Now let's see what it's going to do. Hopefully it's going to get our token. So this is good. We actually get the token. If there is no token, we return unauthorized. We process the token, and then we return the user, and we return the ID and the email. So I'm going to accept. Now let's save. Let's actually do this. Let's here create a new token. So I can select the token. I can go back here, login successful. Now if I go on /account, you can see that I have the email. Okay. Now the thing is, the token only has a lifespan of 10 seconds. So if I try to refresh, I get unauthorized. And so as you can see, in less than 30 minutes, we're able to build a strong user authentication mechanism with our API routes, our account route, our login page with our user form. And so in this video, I didn't cover Google SSO, even though I will leave a link in the description of a great guide that I found in order to get set up on the Google Cloud Console. And we also haven't covered sending the email, simply because I don't think it's the point of the video. And I think the video is already long enough, so I'm going to stop here. Now for the next video, we are going to build the UI and add the payment integration. And for the last video, we are going to go into the CI/CD and the whole deployment. Now we are going to migrate from SQLite to PostgreSQL. So I'm going to show you how to do this also. And so I hope you like this video. I hope you learned something today. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and until then, happy coding.